Hello everybody, and thanks for checking out my review of the Grand Seiko SBGA211, also known as the Grand Seiko Snowflake. Now if you like this review, please click the like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future reviews, and please leave a comment below. I love hearing from you. Now on to the unboxing. Alright, so to get into the unboxing, we'll start off with, it's got a nice blue box with the silver writing and the gray outlines on the sides here. And you open up that first box, and what we get here is a nice quality paper that you just open it up, you pull it out on both sides, and I'll get this out of the way for a moment, because you go into the bottom of this box and you'll see that there's a really nice cushion here to make sure everything's nice and secure. You have a very thick spring drive book in multiple languages, very detailed. You have the warranty card and paperwork. So you open up the fold and you'll see your warranty card, paperwork here, your receipt. Get all this out of the way and you take the paper off and you open up the inner box and you have a really nice tag here. It gives you the model number on the front and serial number on the back, which I will not show you. Nice cushioning on the top to keep it nice and secure. They give you this nice cloth in this little bag, and you open up the bag and there's your watch. For years, a lot of people who are not watch enthusiasts got Grand Seiko and Seiko confused. They're owned by the same parent company, they share the same brand name, but there are both very distinctly different watches, similar to the differences between Toyota and Lexus and Honda and Acura, for instance. Seiko watches are mass-produced. They're incredibly well-made watches with great designs and an excellent reputation priced for the mass market. For years, Seiko's most expensive models with their best movements like the Marine Masters and Tunas were only found in Japan. You had to find a dealer in Japan to ship it to you. Grand Seiko was their luxury subdivision with an excellent reputation for incredibly high quality. These models could only be purchased in select markets in Japan. Watch enthusiasts and Seiko collectors have known about what you get with a Grand Seiko for years, but outside of that community, the perception of Grand Seiko was looked at as just a really expensive Seiko. Now in the last few years, Grand Seiko has worked hard to change how the luxury sub-brand is perceived. They removed the Seiko logo from the dials and now brand them exclusive as Grand Seiko. They opened the market and are now sold in select locations and jewelers around the world. Now as more people got to actually see these watches, hold them, look at them at every angle, it's easy to see why it sells in stores among the best brands in the high-end watch market. There is a lot of skill involved in the manufacturing of a Grand Seiko watch. These are not mass-produced. These watches and movements are handmade, handcrafted, and hand-assembled to an unbelievably high-quality standard. The dials are individually crafted by hand. Indexes are finished using a diamond edge cutting machine. The blue hands you see on a Grand Seiko are heat blued, placed on a hot plate until they are the color you see on the final product. Each index on the dial is inspected and then applied by hand. The cases are also hand finished. This Snowflake I'm reviewing today is hand finished by highly trained specialists through Zaratsu polishing. These specialists require 5 years of training before they're allowed to work on a Grand Seiko case. Zaratsu polishing produces a perfectly even, distortion-free, mirror finish on the polished sections of the case. The Grand Seiko Snowflake is made from scratch and corrosion-resistant high-intensity titanium. Now I've read a lot about how hard it is to work on titanium. Zaratsu polishing is typically used on steel. It makes the mirror finish on this case even more impressive that they had to work that much harder to accomplish it. Each Grand Seiko movement, automatics, quartz, and spring drive are assembled by hand by master watchmakers in Japan. These movements are rated to be highly accurate with better accuracy ratings than COSC. Seiko released the first quartz watch. They created it to be more accurate than a well-regulated automatic or mechanical watch. Seiko has always been innovative with watch technologies. They created a kinetic movement which uses a pendulum to charge the battery of a quartz movement. They advanced that technology with direct drive, which aided charging the battery with the pendulum or by winding the crown. The Grand Seiko Snowflake uses the highly innovative 9R65 spring drive movement. This unique hybrid movement married mechanical components and quartz circuitry to create a highly innovative movement with characteristics of an automatic with the accuracy of a quartz. Spring drive does not use a battery. It features a 3-day power reserve and accuracy to within plus 15 seconds per month. Now rather than ticking, the second hand provides a smooth sweep around the dial. But when you look at them close, you can see some movements as they're moving at 8 beats per second. With the spring drive, there is no movement in the second hand at all as it glides around the dial. They nicknamed the Grand Seiko SBGA211 the Snowflake for its pure white dial with very unique texture inspired by the wind-blown snow on the Japanese Hitaka Mountains. The white is not painted. It's made with a silver plating process that ultimately becomes pure white texture that you see here. The indexes and the Grand Seiko GS logo are mirror finished and applied by hand to the dial using acrylic tweezers. To look at this dial knowing how much hand craftsmanship went into it is really impressive. The sharp sword-like hands are polished along the top and also along the diamond-cut edges. The date and power reserve are cut out with titanium border around the date and a textured finish of the power reserve to mark the reserve left. There is no lume, but the polished sections on the white dial reflect light well, and it's not hard to see in poorly lit rooms. This watch is water resistant to 100 meters. The case is 41 millimeters wide by 49 millimeters tall and 12.5 millimeters thick, and it's very light, weighing in at 100 grams. The bezel and sides of the case have that mirror polish, the curved lugs are brushed, the signed screw-down crown shows the GS Grand Seiko logo. Winding it is where you feel and hear the difference between a mechanical winding movement and the spring drive. It isn't smooth winding like you'd find on a mechanical, but more of a gritty friction type feel which would be perceived as a bit harsher. Here's how it sounds. The sapphire crystal is anti-glare coating on both sides. The back of the case is see-through, also using sapphire to see the attractive decorated spring drive movement. Details of the watch are etched into the titanium around the sapphire. As you can see on the movement of the pendulum, it moves as freely as what you would see on a self-winding automatic. It's got an oyster-like bracelet with polished highlights on the inner links. There are no micro adjustments, but it does have 2 half links. Removing those gave me the perfect size for my 7.5-inch wrist. Now Grand Seiko uses a pin and collar system to size the bracelet. The clasp is small, and it opens with the push buttons and scissor-like closure. It sits flat and comfortably on the bottom of the wrist. This case also offers drilled out lugs to make it easier to change straps without scratching the lugs. Alright, so here's a shot of it on my wrist, and as you can see it fits very nicely. As I mentioned earlier, I only had to remove the 2 half links from the bracelet to get it sized. If you're a watch enthusiast like me, you probably scrutinize every detail of your watch. Any blemish or possible defect that can be magnified with a loop or a macro shot can tend to be talked about in the forums or groups. You can't see the details with the naked eye, but when blown up, the quality control of a brand gets humorously questioned. Grand Seiko is not one of those brands. Every detail is meticulously overseen throughout the manufacturing process, and what you get is pristine. That is not saying that this is a perfect watch. 3 things to me that would make this the perfect watch. I typically prefer to size the bracelet with screws. I also like to have some level of micro adjustment to size perfectly on the fly. The watch is easy to read, however sometimes the mirror finished hands can get lost in the dial in some specific lighting conditions, so it can occasionally affect legibility. Now this is just me, but I do wish they added lume to the hands to be able to read the time in the dark. But again, this is just nitpicking. The watch is incredible. So that's it for my review of the Grand Seiko Snowflake. If you enjoyed this review, please click the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future reviews. And please leave comments and feedback below. I always like to read and respond. Now these can also be purchased at a Grand Seiko authorized dealer, Topper Jewelers, so visit topperjewelers.com. And if you like watches and want to know more about them, there's a great community of enthusiasts. Check out www.watchuseek.com. Now you can also find me on Twitter at DougFNJ. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and have a great day.